College Gymnastics fan going live on YouTube, streaming live on YouTube. Okay, we're going to do men's gymnastics, Illinois, Minnesota. That was like on just yesterday, March 22nd.
We are in Minnesota, the Pam Maturi Pavilion, home to the Minnesota men's gymnastics team. As today they take on Illinois. As always in the Big Ten, it's a top 10 matchup nationally. Illinois at number 7 and Minnesota at number 10. That leads us to our State Farm State of Success. As you see, all the Big Ten schools in the top 10. Michigan at number 2, Illinois at 7.
Ohio State's number 5. I like Ohio State.
10.
I love Michigan.
Hello everybody, I'm
Wolverines
Dean
too.
Lincoln
They're
Graves
in the
with our
seconds.
3-time Olympian and 4-time
Of course,
all-around champion
Oklahoma's
from back
ranked
Minnesota,
number
John
1.
Roethlisberger. JR,
Oklahoma
great to be back with
usually
you.
is.
We'll start with Illinois.
John
Ton of
Roethlisberger
injuries, but
used to
we've
do
got focus on
gymnastics.
2 all-arounders.
He used to
And really,
compete
that's
for
the story,
elite and
how many
college
teams
level
that they are without over half their
gymnastics.
scholarship. Athletes are out, but that means they're going to rely on a guy like Jordan Kovac and Michael Fletcher. Jordan has not been a regular in the all-around. Michael Fletcher, who you see here, has been in the all-around frequently, top 14 in the country right now. Those two are going to have to really perform well if Illinois is going to do good today.
So Minnesota won't have Shane Wiskus, one of the best in the country, but they do have 2 outstanding all-arounders.
Well, first of all, you never replace a Shane Wiskus. He's arguably the best gymnast in the country, but Minnesota's in the situation where they're going to have to do that. Crew Bowl, he's done all-around only once this year. This is his second time in his career. Today, Mike Moran, he's a little more seasoned.
COVID-19
face
face
These
mask.
guys are going to try to defend the home turf today. They have got to perform well if Minnesota wants to spring the upset.
John, you do such a great job breaking down the scoring in men's gymnastics, so we're going to let you do it again.
Well, it's so easy to just describe the scoring in gymnastics. Now, it's a tough one, but here, we're going to break it down and try to make it easy for you. The execution part of the score starts at a 10.0. All the form deductions, the landing deductions, falls from the apparatus, they come out of that 10. Whatever is left, they add that to the value of the 10 most difficult skills that the gymnasts do. Each skill has a value, a point value to it. They add those together, add to what's left of the execution score, and that is their total.
Let's talk coaches. Justin Spring in his 12th season, and of course he led his program to a national championship in 2012 when he was named the National Coach of the Year. And for Minnesota, the 16th season for Mike Burns and of course John Roethlisberger. Tough news with the understanding that Minnesota will eliminate gymnastics on the men's side as a varsity sport.
Yeah, honestly, it's heartbreaking, not just for someone like me that went to University of Minnesota, but 122 years of tradition at the University of Minnesota in men's gymnastics, and they made the unfortunate decision that unfortunately, given the tough times this year, that they're going to have to move on from the sport.
You saw the lineup for Minnesota. Victor Perez will lead off for Minnesota on the floor. The sophomore from Kansas City, Missouri. His season and career high is 13.3 this year.
Great start. That first pass was outstanding. Really important for both of these teams to get a strong start. Minnesota on the floor exercise. This is one of their better events. They need to put up some big numbers. Some lower scoring events like the pommel horse that they're going to next. So when you have a chance to score big, you have to take advantage of it. And this is one of those opportunities for Minnesota right here.
As a team, their high score this year was a 68.25 against Penn State.
They're capable of doing more than that. It's going to be about clean land on your feet, aim cleanly. That was nice right there. That was a triple twist. Unfortunately, it did not have a full rotation on the flip, and that is an unfortunate, massive error, because that is a big difficulty value skill at the end. This was perfect. Maybe a double front, brainy out. He just did not have enough flip. Didn't turn that round off over enough, and he was way short. That's unfortunate. Five guys up on each event. All 5 of those scores are going to count. If you watched the women compete in the Big Ten Championships last weekend, you saw that they could drop a score. At 6 athletes up on each event, they could drop the low score. That is not the case here for the men late in the regular season.
Illinois on the horse, 5th in the Big Ten, 7th nationally, and they're led off by the all-arounder we featured in the Open, Michael Fletcher, who's from the state of New Hampshire. His career and season high at 13-7 hit this year against Penn State.
The coaching staff in Illinois talked very highly of this young man, and on cue, major break now for Illinois. So both teams give away a major break. That is a 1-point deduction. He's got 30 seconds to remount the apparatus. Travels to the end. Here's the horse, the pommel horse. As you can be on, he looked great 1 second. And he hit the horse, got off balance, and you just can't overcome that.
That's your return.
Yeah, but Illinois is going to have to go on the pommel horse next event. So they're probably,
So Illinois, they cannot take advantage
Minnesota's
of
going to have
Minnesota
to go
fall.
on
They
the
get
pommel
back
horse next event.
those points. So 2 routines in, we've got 2 misses, unfortunately. One more look at the dismount here. This is a great dismount. Now, granted, you got a 30-second rest there with the fall, but that it's really important on those dismounts. The legs keep moving up continuously. If there's a pause, the legs come down, they can take away the entire value of the dismount. Done well.
See the score for Perez, who had the call on his final pass. Colton D, the senior from Idaho, his career and season high coming this year, a 14.05.
So now the pressure is on these next 4 guys. That Perez score could have been as much as 14 had he landed that triple twist cleanly, so they gave away a lot of points. Nice double front. This routine very clean so far. Oh, that right there is just frustrating. He gave away at least 3/10, probably more on that landing. It was a simple landing that he honestly shouldn't have lost anything.
Going back to the Perez final pass and that landing, it also looks like it hurts when you're that far short on the landing. Does that hurt a little bit more, John?
You know what, Dean? It hurts, but it hurts your pride more than anything else. Yeah, certainly stung the ankles, but man, that is a frustrating one after a great routine, of course. Colton D, though, potentially a big one here. Pretty clean dismount. That starts from a 15.3. Did have some landing deductions. I don't think you'll get into the 14s. You know, you guys at home, I'll try to give you start values, and you can add up the deductions that you see right here. So an easy landing. So he bounces forward, shoulders are low, takes 2 hops. Each of those hops is at least a 10, probably 3/10 for his shoulders being so low. So believe it or not, that was probably a 5/10 landing deduction. That is just, you can't do that.
You felt from his body language that landing deduction stayed with him really for the rest of the routine. 11.600 for Michael Fletcher to start for Illinois on the horse. Now it'll be the junior from Hawaii, Manny Muehlhauser, a 12.6 this season, but he is capable of better. He had a 13.250. That's his career high.
Illinois has always been known to have tremendous pommel horse workers. And look at his circle. So flat, so extended, nice speed. Backyard travel. It's what's called the staccato travel. Little foot form, but that was a good routine. And that is in a big spot. Following up an 11. You gotta hit. And one thing about pommel horses, fall can be contagious. Great look at the hands. Very little room for air. So you've got to put those hands in the right spot. If you hit the pommel when you're not supposed to or get too close to the edge of the leather, it's over.
Good look there at Justin Spring. We mentioned earlier his team devastated by injuries. As He said this was going to be the season that they would have more depth than ever, but it's not been the case as we go back to the floor. And Garrett Kosicki, the junior from Chesapeake, Virginia, 13-1 season high, 13-9 career high.
Beautiful double twist and double back.
13-8, sorry, John.
That's all right.
Garrett
Changed his
Kosicki
routine around a little bit.
is up. My nephew's
Double
name
out
is
another step
Garrett.
landing. Just in his dismount in particular. Try to make
And
it
the
more
reason
consistent.
why my
This
nephew's
is actually
name
the first time he's
is
competed
Garrett
with
is
specific
because
routine
my
in competition.
sister-in-law
So far, it's pretty darn good.
had a dentist named Dr. Garrett.
Another stuff landing.
So that's how
3 for 3.
he got his name. And actually, I think Garrett, my nephew, got to go meet his
I'll call it a
namesake,
stick. 4
Dr.
for 4.
Garrett. And I think Dr. Garrett is in Texas. So my
I'm not sure
nephew's
what that
name
was
is Garrett
exactly to get to the
Christopher.
corner. A little hoppity skip
But
over
of
there.
course,
That's going to be a
his
deduction.
middle name is Christopher because
And that's
my
the new dismount, a
brother's
double full.
middle name is
Much lower
Christopher.
difficulty.
So
Usually
his
does an
middle
Arabian
name
double
comes from
front.
his dad.
But went for the consistency and it paid off with that double twist. But it started with this. 2 flips, 2 twists. Opens up early, spots the landing. And this is a double twist with 1 flip. Sticks it. And that was the game plan for Mike Burns. Do the easier dismount, stick the landing to get that bonus 10 for sticking the dismount. And he's got to be pumped. They needed that one.
Mike Burns repping the maroon and gold. Nice tie, nice jacket, looking very stylish as we move back over to the pommel horse. Again, Illinois is 7th in the nation. Up third is Tyler Schmidt, a sophomore from Plymouth, Minnesota, who set his career high this year, a 13.1 against Iowa.
Prior to that, he's been very inconsistent, though. But if he can keep doing what he did last time out, it's exactly what Illinois needs right now. A hit routine in the area of a 13 plus would be huge for them. And that was pretty darn good. It was a short routine, but doesn't give the judges a lot of opportunity for deductions. Hit it about as good as he can.
Cameron Bach is the gymnast of the week
What kind
from
of deduction
Michigan.
for just hanging a
Big
little bit
men's
before the
gymnastics
dismount?
And
freshman
it's
of
going
the
to be in
week.
the eye of the judge
Cameron
right there. He's
Nelson
not going to
from
lose the value
Ohio
for that.
State
Probably a
Buckeyes.
3/10 deduction.
Men's
So
gymnastics.
still significant, but we will probably see. We'll watch the course of the rest of the meet. Much bigger deductions on the pommel horse dismount. It's a tough one. They're tired. The arms are burnt at the end of that horse routine, so it's tough to keep it moving.
All-arounder for Minnesota, Mike Moran, who is from Morristown, New Jersey. His career high is a 14.5. Best this season, JR, is a 13.9.
And it needs a big one here. Nice mount on the front half out. Mike Burns said he kind of tweaked his back a little bit this week. Wasn't sure how he'd be feeling today, but not a problem.
Kosicki in with a 13.85.
Actually thought that Kosicki score was going to be a little bit higher than that. Beautiful Arabian double front half out. This routine is packed. With difficulty starts from a 15-6. Tough combination, triple combination pass. One more to go. It's going to be a triple twist. We saw this from Perez. It didn't go well. Pretty good, but man, that's a huge step. That is probably for sure a 3/10 step. Then he took another small step and he went out of bounds. He did probably a 5/10 deduction on that dismount. But overall, he had a lot in that routine. I think they should break a 14 this time. There's the Arabian double front, training out. Huge air.
Remember, Shane Wiskus not here. He's in Colorado Springs with the U.S. team, and he actually just won the Winter Cup. First place he took on the floor. Wiskus's high was a 14.8 as we move back over to Tommy Mistretta, redshirt senior from Eastern PA. 13.7 to open the season against Northern Illinois.
He's top 25 in the country on this event. And again, you can see why. That beautiful extension in his swing. Gotta keep the momentum. He does. Again, after the opening fall, Illinois has rallied. Not putting up huge numbers. Have not broken 13 yet, although I think that one is going to be the first time they break 13. But the most important thing on horse is stay on. Look at the hands. Magyar travel, Zapato travel. I talked to Justin Spring this week briefly, and he talked about just the challenges of coming up here this weekend and competing. We're actually early this week and competing with just a decimated roster. And you know, you've got to have the next guy up. And Illinois so far doing a good job.
Moran score not in yet. That's part of the reason we'll wait for Ben Isles, the junior from Ames, Iowa, who has a career high of 13.35. His best effort, though, this season is a 12.5. And certainly Mike Burns would appreciate a big score here to make up for a couple of missteps, I guess you could say.
Well, this probably isn't going to be a huge score. Mike Burns describes this routine as less is more. And the idea, unfortunately, it didn't come true right there, was to hit a clean set. And that first pass was a huge deduction, bouncing out of bounds. But that one, much better.
Can tell you that Mike Moran tied his season high with a 13.9.
That big deduction on the dismount is what kept him out of the 14s. Ben only starts from a 14.4, so after that first pass that went way out of bounds, he is going to be fighting to keep this closer to 13. Again, a simple pass there with no deductions until he did a half turn in the corner and stumbled, unfortunately. 2.5 twist dismount, also clean, small hop. He's going to be a little disappointed because he knows it's not a big start value, but this was a huge double front. Just hold on to that tuck too long. Honestly, let's rebound and put a front full on the end of that. That was a big double front. But they do stay on their feet. They had to fall in that first set. They stay on their feet the rest of the way. They will have the lead after the first rotation, but now they have to go to power horse in the second rotation.
How about Ian Skirky on the horse, ranked 6th nationally and 6th in the conference, which tells you how good the Big Ten always is, right, on the pommel horse across the teams. His top score is a 14.55. His career high is a 14.7.
He's special on this event, too. Comes out of the same gym as NCAA champion Steven Netarasic. Went to Penn State, and that's a big skill. And you can see he was just off his shoulder, too far outside of the pommels when he started that skill. And you knew he was in trouble. The question was, could he recover? Right now, they're deciding whether he's going to get credit. So watch. The hand goes on there, and his shoulder's right there. You can see how far he's leaning outside of that pommel when his other hand gets back to the middle, and that was just too much to overcome. This is very costly. This is a difference-making routine for Illinois. This can be a routine that scores a point higher than anybody on Minnesota's team can score. He's got to keep it together here. Now this is getting real bad. Again, every score counts. 5 guys go up. Every score counts, and for Illinois right now, they're going to have to count this routine. So it's so important. If you have a mistake late in the season in men's gymnastics, if you have a fall, you have to get it together. You've got to regroup. You've got to hit the rest of the routine clean because that score is going to count. And so far, unfortunately, Sparky has not done that. that execution total, and that's unfortunate for Illinois. They needed that one.
As you remember, we came on the air talking about all four of the all-arounders and Crew Bold, and this will not count for the 5-up-5 count. The Crew Bold score will count toward the all-around title.
2 scores in the 12s there, the first score and the last score. Those hurt a little bit. Beautiful double twist and double back. Low on those shoulders on that landing. See, that's an ankles tape. That's something that's been bothering him a bit over the course of the season.
The sophomore from Delray Beach, Florida, Florida Virtual School, as so many of these elite level athletes are now doing.
This is going to be a decent score for Crew. If he can finish strong right here. Should be a triple twist. It is a little short on the twist. Big step forward. Mike Burns is going to wish that was in there. 5 scores that count for their team total, because that's going to be a decent number. There's the triple twist. You can see his feet kind of land staggered. And that is a deduction, plus the step, plus the low shoulders. I tell you what, the judges will find a slew of ways to take deductions.
A fellow all-arounder for Illinois, Jordan Kovach, will finish up for Illinois on the horse. Again, this will not count toward the team score, but it will count toward Jordan's all-around score, as we have 2 athletes from each team competing in the all-around.
Jordan's not done all-around a lot for Illinois. The biggest reason why is been his vault. But they have a vault that he can do. It's not a high difficulty vault, but enough to put him in the all-around. Get through this routine. It's the first time he's competed horse this season. If he can get through that one, sets himself up well for the rest of the meet in the all-around.
The senior from Oklahoma wrapping up as part of the all-around. It's Minnesota and Illinois, a top 10 matchup. When we come back, we'll switch it. Illinois will be on the floor. Minnesota will be on the horse. Big Ten Men's Gymnastics on the Big Ten Network. Gymnastics on the Big Ten Network is brought to you by State Farm. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
There's John Roethlisberger.
4-time Big Ten all-around champion at Minnesota, 3-time Olympian, including 1-time overcoming a devastating injury. John Roethlisberger, one of the all-time greats at Minnesota, all-time greats for the red, white, blue, and certainly John Roethlisberger, as you look in on the Maturity Pavilion, I'm sure it's emotional for you every single time.
Oh, absolutely. You know, ironically, I never competed as a varsity athlete in the pavilion. I always competed on the Williams Arena, the barn side of it.
Barn.
But still, this building is historic, and it's always fun to come back or to see the maroon and gold on the inside of the building and the Gophers competing. So yes, absolutely, it's a special place for me.
Take a look at the scores, and of course the anchor there, Skurky, really a tough time for him with that 11.45.
Yeah, that's not a good rotation for Illinois. The middle was decent, but starting to finish was not good. That's well below their season high by almost 5 points. So they got a little ground to make up. The thing about the first 2 rotations, pommel horse, a much lower scoring event. So even if you hit a great routine, If you compare that to a great routine on the floor exercise, floor is almost always going to outscore pommel horse. So it'll equal out now that Minnesota's going there, which is also a weak event for Minnesota. So it's certainly a chance for Illinois to take back the lead after the second rotation.
13.9 for Mike Moran in that fourth spot.
Yeah, and like Illinois, the first guy up and the last guy up, gave some points away, but not bad. That's 66.5, not close to their season, a couple points behind their season high, but they fought hard, they got a decent score. Now that lead looks like a lot. It's about 5 points, I believe. That's in jeopardy. That's a lot. That's a big lead in gymnastics, but these two events, Minnesota on horse, lower scoring event for them, plus they're a little weak on pommel horse compared to Illinois and floor exercise, which is a much better event for them. They certainly could just flip-flop that lead, and Illinois could get back in front after the second rotation.
Let's go big picture here, John Roethlisberger, and take a look at the conference standings. Obviously, Kurt Boulder has a team that could win a national championship.
Yeah, Michigan's rolling. I mean, they're going to be battling with Oklahoma, I think, at the NCAA championships, and it looks to me like it's kind of their conference to win. But in the sport of gymnastics, especially with the inability to drop a missed routine, it's a game changer. It opens up the field tremendously for all of these teams to maybe make a surprise when we get to the Big Ten championships.
Well, you mentioned surprise. Who could forget 2018 when almost kind of out of nowhere, Minnesota set the runner-up in 2018, just 6 years after Justin Spring had won a national championship for Illinois in 2012, becoming the youngest coach to win a National Coach of the Year. He still looks like he's that young, doesn't he, as Max Diab leads off for Illinois?
Yes, he does. Max is the brother, obviously, to Alex Diab, who was an NCAA ring champion for Illinois.
Lord of the Rings, right?
He was, and he followed in his dad's footsteps, Mark Diab, who won 2 NCAA championships with Iowa State.
But there's one more coming as well, another Diab down the road, right?
Yeah, well, I did cover their sister recently. She competes collegiately as well for Iowa State. There's that Diab strength, Maltese. Max starts with a 15-3 on this routine. Supposed to end with the triple twist. He's taking a deep breath there. He got enough gas. Easy. Does take that big step, but lands all his passes on his feet. That's the name of the game.
So let me ask you this. His season high is 13.8. Based on what you just saw, did he beat that score?
I don't think so. No, it wasn't quite clean enough in my opinion. That right there, shoulders low, step. That could be a 6/10 reduction on that landing alone. It's just so easy, unless you're really clean on floor, it's so easy to give away reductions.
Noah Duran, who had the team's best score, 13.6 at Nebraska, will lead it off, freshman from Katy, Texas.
And Mike Burns describes him as super consistent. And they're going to need that here through 5 guys on pommel horse. They don't have the big scores, big start values.
Described the horse as a make-or-break event for the Golden Gophers.
He's getting tired. This is a great routine, but he's getting tired. Is he going to make the dismount? Pretty good. Fabulous start for the Gophers. Could not ask for anything more. You can see he struggled a little bit on that handstand dismount at the end, but it didn't dip back down, and that's the critical part. So what? Leg continue to rise a little slow at the top. It will be a deduction, but he avoided catastrophe, and that overall was a fantastic job.
Yeah, he willed his way to finish that dismount. As you saw, he was hanging there, but then was able to push himself up, John Roethlisberger, and then make the dismount. Over to Josh Cook, the sophomore from Wales, a 13-7. His only time this year against Michigan and Nebraska. His only event, remember Illinois, 5th in the Big Ten, 7th in the country on the floor.
You see that after rotation 1 score down on the right, Illinois' score went up, and that was because they had an inquiry after the first rotation, so they were awarded some more points. Every attempt is critical, and boom, right out of the gate. High double front, nails it.
He outscored 13-5-5, so you called that one correctly.
That's a good start score, though. I'm not going to lie. That's good. Way to begin the rotation. The other thing to keep in mind when you see an athlete land, sometimes they'll hop and try to go to the side and cover it up a little bit with a skill or a transition, and that should be a deduction also. Get away with it once in a while. You gotta try, but usually the judges will catch it. Josh starts from a 15.4. This is a cleaner routine in my opinion. And we saw from Max Dion, so it should score higher than that 13.55. He likes it. Good start for the Illini.
Fire and some fun. Illinois gymnasts here in Minnesota. Henry Meeker, the senior from right here in Minneapolis, a 13.3 this year, his season and career high for Henry Meeker.
Henry is a legacy here at the University of Minnesota. His dad Brian, was a gymnast in the 80s. Competed for my dad, who was the coach here. An outstanding athlete, Big Ten champion. And Henry following in his footsteps. He is the team captain of the Golden Gophers. Challenging. He tore his ACL actually in November. He was holding off on getting it repaired until after the season. And that was big. Good flight. It wasn't perfect, man, but he fought. He was off on a few parts of that routine, but he stayed on and avoided the big air. Nice job of keeping that dismount moving for the most part.
So what would his father Brian say about that performance on the horse for his son?
Oh, he'd be thrilled, especially because Brian, he was not good on pommel horse. He's a scrappy pommel horse worker, made the most of it, but Henry's got I would say, and I think Brian would agree with me, a much better swing than his father did.
Jordan Kovacs, the senior, 11.9 this season, but he is capable of bigger scores. His career high is a 13.9.
That 14-3 you saw from Josh Cook a moment ago, that was big. Fighting for that landing.
The Kovacs hairstyle did not make the John Roethlisberger hairstyle back in the days.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that I had any style at all, but mine was definitely different. It works for him, though. I like it. And another clean routine. 15-2 start. This routine is scheduled for if he performs it like he's supposed to so far. Pretty well done. Fabian double, a tough dismount. An incredibly tough dismount. That's the one that Gasiski from Minnesota had been doing, and they took it out and added the double twist in. And this is exactly why it is so hard to get the turnover. When you're tired, you got to stand that round up a big time, and it's a blind landing. And you just have no hope of staying on your feet. If short like that, and that's a big error. They were really rolling after 2, and that was going to be another big score. They're closing the gap quickly on the Gophers.
Mike Moran, the all-rounders, the junior from Morristown, New Jersey. His best score came this year in his career at 13.35.
Complicated scissor work to start the routine. Oh, and the first big break on horse for the Gophers. And the funny part is he looked like he was okay. It looked like he was on, but I'll tell you from experience, he can look like you're on and not be in a moment's notice. Now, the question is, what is he going to do? Does he repeat the skill?
Saw Coach Burns walk over to him. What do you think he said?
Well, they're talking about whether he needs to do the skill again. And he probably needed to bring his body over the horse one more time to get credit, but not going to repeat it. Oh, and he finishes great, but unfortunately, he was close to the end. It's going to be a big hit for the Gophers on an event they really can't afford to have major breaks. But again, the point that he got up and finished clean is big. Will give away much of anything else after the fall.
Wait to get the score for Moran. Up 4th for Illinois on the floor. Evan Manbaum, sophomore from Kansas City, 14.3 in that last meet against Michigan and Nebraska. That's exactly the score that Cook has already received, so it wouldn't hurt to match that score.
Yeah, you can see that low on George Kovach, unfortunately. Manabon's been a great edge guy all season long. Floor vault and high bar. Nice start. Very clean, full twisting double back, small hop on the landing. Tough combination, front double twist, front full. So much going on in there. You have to be just exactly right on.
Manabong won the floor title to start the season against NIU.
Handstand, that fulfills an element of work as well. As a gymnast, you got to do skills from different families, different types of skills. Something backwards is one of them, forwards. The triple twist, pretty clean. Looked like a 110 hop to me at the end. They needed that. He follows a miss from Kovach. This is tough. Front double twist, right to a front fold. You've got to land that double twist just right to make the flip and the twist on that second skill. Incredibly difficult.
Now we start to see some of the youngsters for Minnesota as this young gymnast, a freshman from Chicago, Lincoln Park High School. What can you tell us about the 4th slot here on the horse for Mike Burns?
He's got to be clean because this is not a big start value routine. Just a freshman. Oh, man. Evan has had 2 surgeries on his bicep actually 1 surgery, and there you can see what happened to put him horse. Had it relocated back in December. First week was actually last week. So now this is incredibly important. He gets back up and is clean. Oh, and he's not going to get credit for that. He's going to probably do the dismount over again. And this is exactly what Minnesota could not afford to have happen on what is arguably their weakest event. Long way to go, though, to deep breath here. Get back up there. Do a clean dismount. They got one more athlete to go. All right. Good fight, but man, that's going to be a costly one for the Gophers.
So we'll wait and see for the numbers for Evan as wrapping it up. Always good to see on the floor. Connor McCool, best score 14.55 against Nebraska, Michigan. But he has nailed a 14.8 in his young career, the sophomore from Wildwood, Missouri.
And the Illinois coaching staff is thrilled with that guy. How about that mount? 3.5 punch front Brady. Double. They weren't sure they were going to bring Connor in. They were debating whether to bring him onto the team. They ultimately decided to do so, and they're thrilled that they did. They call him an instant All-American. Coming in as a freshman, he's an anchor on the floor, and most likely going to be an All-American on this event this year. Nice position there. Butterfly.
2016 Junior Olympic National Floor Champion.
You can see why. This is a big routine. A 15-8 start. Can end with a triple twist. And that was huge. That is a routine that takes the lead, in my opinion. I will be surprised if Illinois does not have the lead, largely because of this performance. Look at this. 3.5 twist. Punch front Brady out of it. I mean, really, that's impossible. No human being should be able to do that. That's big time gymnastics.
He actually made it look relatively easy, which shows you the power and athleticism of Connor McCool. Rounding out the 5 that count for Minnesota on the horse, Matt Sullivan, junior from Aurora, Illinois, season high 12.25. His career high is a 13.2.
And to say the pressure is on Matt Sullivan would be an understatement. They have got to get a hit. I know there's 4 events left, but man, they could dig themselves a hole they won't get out of if they can't get a hit here. See that 10.3 from Evan Ing. Oh, and another fall. Matt Sullivan is just coming back. Actually, only competed 1 meet this year on pommel horse because he's the one that's actually had a couple elbow surgeries. Had some nerve issues in both elbows. And same surgery. One in December, one in January. He's come back nicely, but only his second meet. Tough to go out and just hit right away. This is usually in the preseason. But he didn't have that.
Big Ten family. His brother Doug competed for Iowa gymnastics, and his sister Shannon was a diver for the University of Wisconsin.
Great family. I've known that family for a long time. That's an unfortunate rotation for Minnesota. 4 falls total for them on the pommel horse. They're going to have some work to do.
Michael Fletcher, again, part of the all-around. The score won't count. As you see the all-around standings, Mike Moran leading. Connor McCool, by the way, wrapped up Illinois on the floor with a 14-4.
It's a big score, 14-4.
A junior national team member, coached by Calvert Booker.
just a double twist, but if he can stick it, oh no, check that, Arabian double front, goes big, and he loves it. Justin Spring's gonna wish that one would have been in the top 5 for a team score. That was outstanding. There's the dismount, Arabian double. We saw his teammate Jordan Kovac have some trouble with that. Not so for Michael Fletcher. Loving it.
Dance jig there for Michael Fletcher. Certainly help his chances for the all-around. Speaking of all-around, Crew Gold will give it a shot. Of course, in this score won't count for the team score, but will go toward his all-around number.
Have to hit well to keep pace with the Illini. A little slow to circle. You can see he's a little piked as well, but form pretty good. Caught his leg on the end of the horse there. Good work to keep it moving. Oh, great fight, man. He easily could have come off there at the end of that dismount, but man, impressive effort. Stay on the pommel horse. Right here. Looked like he wasn't going to be able to get that up there, and then he hangs out in that one hand a little extra.
Through 2 rotations, Minnesota and Illinois. Minnesota return on the rings, Illinois on the vault. The 3rd rotation when we return on the Big Ten Network. Tomorrow on the Big Ten Network, don't miss a men's soccer matinee doubleheader. First is Jim McCowney's Rutgers squad battle Sasha Swarovski in Maryland, then Shaka Daly in Michigan take on Damon Rensing's Michigan State Spartans in a rivalry showdown. It's all tomorrow on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. The PAV was rocking on Saturday, John Roethlisberger, because the Minnesota women ended a 6-year run for the Michigan Wolverines. Jenny Hansen, led by the all-around champion Lexi Rambler. On a loper was outstanding. The Golden Gophers win the Big Ten championships at the PAV.
Congratulations to the Lady Gophers. What a performance. Big upset for them. Lexi Rambler, she might be, if not already, she will be by the time she's done, the greatest female gymnast to go through Minnesota. And I'm saying that as the brother of maybe the 2nd greatest one, Marie Roethlisberger. She was their first NCAA champion. But man, Lexi Rambler and the Gophers, they got something special going this year.
They really do. Lexi Rambler on a loper, and then you got Maya Hooten, the bright star who lights up the camera. Jenny Hansen, a bright future indeed, as now we go to some power here on the rings. Minnesota, Garrett Kosicki, the junior from Chesapeake, his career and season high, John, coming this year with a 13.4.
Well, they're going to need every bit of that. They gave up a lot of points. I talked about how Illinois could very well take the lead after the 2nd rotation because they were going to floor exercise, but they did more than take the lead. You can see right there why. 2 scores in the 10s, 111, 112, and 113 for Minnesota. That's 58.4. That is a killer. And they've got a big hole to climb out of, 5.7 points behind Illinois. That means Illinois had almost a 10-point swing in 1 rotation. So Mike Burns knew pommel horse was a weak event for them, but I don't think he, in his worst nightmares, imagined 4 falls.
Take a look at the lineup on the rings. Kosicki, Meeker, Dean, Moran, and Bold. 2 juniors, 2 seniors, and the sophomore Bold. And no Wiskus, who had a 14.2 against Penn State. The best score this year on the rings for Minnesota came against Penn State with a 67.85. Their highest score ever was in 2015 against Stanford, just shy of 75. Take a look at the scores for Illinois, and that included Connor McCool with a solid finish at 14.4.
Yeah,
Connor McCool, I wonder if he's any
it was
relation
good
to
enough.
Courtney
A couple big scores in the
McCool.
14s when Minnesota's putting up a couple 10s.
Although
That is
Courtney
a
McCool's
big
married
swing
now, so
for
she
them.
has a different name.
And
And
for
I
the
think she has
Illini,
2
their
kids.
rotation here in the vault. freshman Myers, and then a couple sophomores, and then Michael Fletcher, the all-arounder, will be the anchor for Justin Spring.
So most likely, and not most likely, definitely Illinois is going to extend their lead here in this rotation. And this is the quirky thing about men's gymnastics. Even though it's the same code that governs all the events, certain events just tend to be higher scoring events. Vault is one of those. Floor is another event that tends to score higher. So vault, a much higher scoring event in general event, is the still rate. So, for example, Illinois is ranked number 8 in the country. They have a high score of a 71.25 on vault, while their high score on the still rings is a 67.95, yet they have a 50 for that event. So just the way the sport kind of plays itself out, vault is a higher scoring event than rings, so that lead will get extended. But once Minnesota goes to the vault in the 4th rotation, that is when they're really going to have to start to make a move and start to dig into that lead that Illinois has built up.
So a lot of wood to chop for Minnesota, as Kosicki now ready to start the 3rd rotation. The leadoff for Mike Burns in Minnesota on the rings.
Start. Kosicki starts from a 14.9. This is the event, as Mike Burns describes it, that it's not a very strong event for Minnesota, but the average is it can go up and be clean. And what that basically means, the game plan is to maximize that execution total. So what's left out of that 10 points, maximize that. Even though your difficulty, the values of those 10 skills won't be as high, you still can end up with a decent total at the end of the day. That's the Amawaki sequence right there. The bent elbows on that press handstand. Gotta try to keep those locked out. Nice, 1.5 twisting double back dismount, so good start. It's what they needed.
Former JO national qualifier for 3 straight years from 15 to 17. Solid lead off for Minnesota on the rings in Kosicki. Illinois, they are 6th in the conference, 8th nationally on the ball, and they'll start with a freshman, Logan Myers from Morrison, Colorado.
Sukahara with a double twist, technically called a Kazamatsu with a full. He likes it, starts from a 14.8. Look, so he'll do a round off or a cartwheel onto the table, comes off, there's 2 twists in the air. You can see Justin Spring in the background, he wanted the stuck landing.
He knows where the camera is.
Still happy about it, and he should. That's a big ball. Looks like he needs to add the half twist to me. To increase that difficulty value by 0.4 of a point.
Going second on the rings for the Golden Gophers, Henry Meeker, a senior from Minneapolis, as they're still awaiting the score for Kosicki. Meeker, a 13.5 this year is his season and career high for the senior.
And this is a perfect example of why, when you look at vault and rings, why vault tends to be a higher scoring event than rings. Logan Myers' start value was a 14.8. Henry Meeker's start value is supposed to also be a 14.8. The difference is on rings, you do 10 skills that all open yourself up to a deduction. You can get a deduction of each one of them. Vault is essentially one skill, and it limits the amount of places that judges can take deductions, so hence, vault tends to be a higher scoring event. Henry was planning on taking 6 weeks after the NCAA championships and just having fun doing some traveling, but unfortunately he postponed his ACL surgery, and now he's going to be doing rehab for 6 weeks before he takes that engineering job that he has lined up. Unfortunately. Easier dismount because of that knee, but he does it perfect. And that epitomizes the game plan for the Golden Gophers on rings. Not huge, gymnastics, not huge start values, but he gave very little for the judges to give away. And this is a perfect example. Simple front full, that's a C value skill, but it's perfect. Clean in the air, sticks the landing.
Coach Burns telling me that with the rings, they just need to be steady and clean, almost keeping it simple. Connor McCool, after seeing Myers with a 14.15, career high 14.8.
You're going to see the same vault. Done well. Again, small hop on the landing. I didn't think, in my opinion, it was quite as clean in the air, which means it should have a couple more deductions, but he had bigger air and bigger distance. You see his knees a little bit, feet. Probably going to score comparably to Logan Myers.
See the big lead that Illinois has through the first two rotations, but you never know, as Mike Burns. Burns not only a great coach, but a great person. He talks about he's made it a mission to laugh every day and make somebody laugh every day. And if you know Mike Burns, he is capable of doing both.
What more can you ask for, right? You're laughing, you're having a good time.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound like something he would say and do?
Absolutely.
Colton D, his career high is a 14.05.
And they would love a 14 right here. You saw that 13.55 from Henry Weaver. That's a good score. If they can steal a couple of 14s here, that would be huge for the Gophers.
That's for Meeker, his best ever.
Tough Yamawaki, that's what those double front skills are. There's the swing moving nicely. Tough dismount coming up. Double pike front. Line landing, but he does it pretty well. Small hop. 3 for 3 for the Gophers. Cross. The signature skill. Skill rings.
Max Diab, the senior from Glen Ellen, Illinois, 14.05 his season high, 14.8 career high for Max.
Max is scheduled to do a 2.5 twist, which starts from the 15.2, so this will be the highest start value so far that he can pull it off. He does. Done pretty well. Look at the landing struggles there. A couple steps. Couldn't tell if that foot can be on the line, but it just can't be over the line. If it was over, it was a 1/10 deduction. I do believe it stayed in. But a little form in the air. Sticks. The line is in. That looked like it was in to me.
So Illinois feeling pretty good about their start in this one, as they're 3 through the ball. As you see the rankings for Illinois, 8th in the country on the ball. Minnesota 9th in the country on the rings. Mike Moran, the all-arounder from Morristown, New Jersey, career high 13.2.
Be a 13.6. I'm sure Minnesota would have liked to get a couple more tenths out of that. Not bad. Mike Moran starts from a 14.1. This is again not a big start value, so he's got to be clean.
I'll tell you, Diab with a season high 14.350 to Illinois.
Nice double twisting, double back, and boom! perfect on the landing. They needed that. Gophers need to squeeze every single tenth. This is big. He gets a bonus for that stick. You think about it, if he takes a 3/10 step, that means it's a 4/10 swing on that landing alone. That was big.
I like the moxie of Grant. He's got the same temperament, whether he falls or doesn't fall. He shows the same emotion as Evan Manavong, 5th in the Big Ten, 9th nationally, the sophomore from Kansas City, top score of 14.75 against the Buckeyes.
Same fault as Diop. Oh, and he sticks a landing. Not sure what that is.
He's got his vaccine.
Vaccine card. Whatever it is, if that's what it takes, sign me up for one of those cards. That was amazing. Little foot form on that pre-flight. Other than that, that's slow motion though too. So we can see those deductions a little easier, but that landing, that is going to be a huge one for the Illini. Starts at a 15-2, the same as Max Diop. We got one more of those vaults too with Michael Fletcher in the anchor spot. Illini having some fun. They've had some adversity coming into this week's meet, but they're making the most of it, performing well, and having a good time along the way.
Last to go on the rings for Minnesota, Crew Bold, the all-rounder from Florida. His career and season high, 13.65 coming this year.
He needs another season high right now. You could see it in the air. He kind of opened his body, which makes the twist easier, but it makes the flip go a lot slower. I almost could see it right off the rings. Didn't quite pull through the rings enough. It almost looked like he was going a little too hard to try to stick that one. That's unfortunate.
That comes after Evan Manavong tied his top score of 14.75 that he hit against the Buckeyes. He does it also here against Minnesota. Now Michael Fletcher, the all-arounder, 14.3 at the Winter Cup. His career high is 14.65.
He can do this vault amazingly well. Oh, and he gives the landing away. That he was going for the stick. And that happens sometimes. You saw Minnesota do it. Two guys with the same dismount, double twist and double back. First guy sticks. The second guy's going for the stick. And it almost looked like that was what Michael Fletcher was doing right there. Saw his teammate Manavong nail his, and as a competitor, you want to match it. And he might have just been looking for that landing a little too early. Gave it away, unfortunately.
Still one more athlete to go for Illinois. Jordan Kovach, the all-arounder, along with Fletcher, who just went. Fletcher, part of the 5-up, 5-count. Kovach will get his ball in here to try to chase down an all-around title today. I feel like Illinois is going to obviously stretch their lead as you see the all-around coming into this rotation.
An opportunity here for Jordan Kovach. His teammate has a mistake. Saw Crew Bold have a mistake on the ring, so we made the all-around race extremely tight. He can manage to on his feet. Jordan's from Bart Connor's School of Gymnastics. Wasn't sure if he was going to do college gymnastics. Took a gap year to decide what he wanted to do. Wasn't recruited a lot, and Illinois said, we love what you got, we like your skills, we want you to come to Champaign, and they've been very happy with that decision. simple Yurchenko with a full twist, but he did it real nice. I mean, that looks like if he did it like that every time, he should be doing a double full. That was a very nice Yurchenko with a full. Just a 14-0 start value, so we'll score lower.
When we come back, Illinois, 5th in the nation on the rings. And don't forget, the men's NCAAs will also take place right here at the PAV. We bring you the 4th rotation with the Illini on the rings and Minnesota on the ball when we return. Friday on the Big Ten Network, a huge night of volleyball begins with the Gophers in action against Northwestern. Then Nebraska takes on Michigan, and Wisconsin squares off with Penn State in a marquee matchup. It's all powered by Unleaded 88, Friday on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Great to be with the Minnesota legend, USA gymnast John Roethlisberger. I'm Dean Linke, and your alma mater has some wood to chop now, as they say, through 3 rotations.
Oh, you are not kidding. They got almost a 10-point hole they have to dig out of it. The pommel horse was a rough one for them, but now they go to vault. They've got to land on their feet. They've got to do some big vaults. They've got to take advantage of Illinois being on the rings, and maybe even as much as get close to cutting that lead in half. You can't let this be a 10-point lead going into the last 2 events, or you will not catch the Illini. You've got to make it more of a 5 or 6 point lead, and then try to jump on maybe some mistakes by the Illini on those last 2.
Both these teams missing some big-time names, of course. Minnesota, Shane Wiskus, one of the best ever, and Illinois, I mean, Hamish Carter coming off a big-time performance. They're going to hold him out to try to get ready for the Big Ten championships.
I mean, that is a lot of routines. A couple very big ones with Shane Wiskus and Pacheco for Minnesota, but the number of routines out for Illinois that's a tough one to overcome. So far, they've done a nice job, but that's over 20 potential routines, half their scholarship athletes on the sidelines, and that is a tough thing to overcome. But you know what? Sometimes when a team's got their back up against the wall and the chips are down, guys rally, and it looks like they've done that so far. They haven't been perfect, but you know what? They don't have to be. They're just scrapping and fighting every 10th, and it's worked well for them halfway through.
And another name not on that list, junior Clay Mason Stevens, has returned to Australia to train for the Olympic trials. And you may have talked to Coach Spring about this as well. I know I did, and he said it was a tough decision. They tried to work it out like with Shane, where Shane has been doing both, right? Some with Minnesota, some with the USA, but with COVID, making that full commitment to the Australian national team.
Yeah, and that's tough. He's got to quarantine a certain amount of time traveling overseas like that, and it became very precarious and questionable on whether he could, do the best he could to try to make that Olympic team, which obviously that's a huge goal for a lot of these athletes. And Shane Wiskus here in the States, he has the ability, he's got to overcome quite a few hurdles as far as COVID protocols are concerned to compete, but he should be back with the Big Ten championships and the NCAA championships for Minnesota, but certainly through the course of the regular season, that is a big factor in why their scores are lower than they ultimately could have been.
Saw the lineup for the Illini on the rings. Remember, they're 5th in the nation. You see the scores for Mike Burns on the rings. The best score coming right in the middle of the lineup, Colton D with a 13.6.
And other than that trouble on that landing, I mean, it was a decent rotation for Minnesota. And crew sticks at landing, they're very close to their season high as well. But now they go to vault. They can put up some big numbers here. Capable of scoring over a 70 on this event. So, again, we talked about how rings is a bit of a lower scoring event, vault a higher scoring event. Minnesota needs to land on their feet. They might just need to stick a few of these as well.
Mike Burns, Minnesota Golden Gophers. I did ask Mike Burns for his top 3 best memories of Minnesota, and of course he said the 2018 runner-up, and that was huge. I'm not sure any of us were expecting that, but everything was clicking for the Gophers. And then he also mentioned the 2014 national champion on horse Ellis Mannon. What do you remember about Mr. Mannon?
Oh man, he was world class. He is a world class pommel horseman, and he took that a long way. Certainly, he could compete with some of the best international athletes when he was at his peak. And he's a lot of fun to watch. They could use an Ellis Mannon on the squad right now. I'll tell you that. Every team could.
Top 3 on the list was the 2019 Big Ten regular season title, the only one for Minnesota, but he had to put that there in the top 3. to update the all-around scores. There they go. Michael Fletcher at 38.95. Leader at the moment. Do you think Fletcher can hang on?
Oh, he definitely can, but that 110, that's nothing. That's not even a lead in the sport of gymnastics. Jordan Kovac, 0.85 behind. He's right in it too. Crew Bowl, he's got a little bit of work to do, but when you have a 1-point deduction for a fall, you can see standing swing in an instant. So these guys are going to have to continue to hit routines if you want to get that all-around time.
I appreciate your message that Minnesota will certainly pick up points on the ball. However, remember Illinois, 5th in the nation on the ring, so perhaps not as huge variant in scoring as you expect. But if you are Mike Burns and you're down 10 through 3 as we get set for Logan Myers on the rings, what do you tell your team to make them believe they can come back and win this?
You don't have to tell them a lot because I know they will. They just got to hit. You just got to do your job. You can't worry about what Illinois is doing. You hit routines. Maybe Illinois makes a couple mistakes that help you out a little bit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you control your job, and that's it.
Logan Myers hit his routine against Penn State, a 13-7 for his career high.
Beautiful giant swing to handstand. That is textbook. Double twisting double. Oh, Illinois, man, they might not have their A team because of injuries and other things, but these guys are taking advantage of their opportunities, and that was a heck of a start from Logan Myers.
Logan Myers having himself a good day and a good time.
Boom. Double twisting double back. Is the 19th ranked gymnast in the country on that event, so no slouch, and lead off with him. That's nice.
Colton D, senior from Idaho, 14.5 career high. His best this season for Minnesota is 14.2.
Same lead-off vault we saw from Illinois. It's the Sukahara with a double twist. Small hop, pretty darn good.
Not bad.
You know he wants to stick that landing though. These guys probably work a more difficult vault, so this one, pretty confident he's going to land it. The question is, how cleanly is he going to land it? That small hop. His shoulders were a little low too. The judges should take a deduction on that as well.
Side hop. What does that tell you? We've seen a lot of hop backwards, a lot of hops forward. When it's a side hop, what does it tell you about what took place?
Well, it could be a number of things. You know, they're twisting into the mat, so that twist could send them a little sideways. If they're off axis when they come onto the vault table, that could also be a problem as well. Or a combination of all those things, including not finishing your flip. So there's a lot of physics that are going on, and Dean, I'll be honest with you, I did not pass freshman physics in high school, so.
I don't believe that. Jordan Kovac, the all-arounder, 13.9 career high for the senior from Oklahoma. A 13.75 has been his best score this year, and he is up and on the rings for the Illini.
That's a nice first guy up score of a 13.7 for Illinois. Little rough. You can see the rings kind of jerking around a little bit on that second Yamawaki. Be smooth. One and a half twisting double back. Took a few shuffles backwards, but man, that could have been a whole lot worse. That's a tough landing to see the ground coming in. Kept it on his feet. Right now, Illinois, they just need to hit routines. They don't even have to be perfect. It's a great look at it. You can see his hips were way behind his feet when he landed.
Dante McKinney first time this year on the ball. He does have a career high, though, a big score of 14.95. So the sophomore from Jacksonville, Florida, can fly on this event.
They need a big one right here. Minnesota picked up 4 tenths after the first 2 gymnasts have gone. One for Illinois, one for Minnesota. This is a big call. Oh, catastrophe again. First time this season. Had some health issues with his legs, and that's kept him out of the ball. But man, this is a big one. It's Yurchenko with a 2.5 twist. You can see it all the way over on that side of the table. Doesn't have the rotation, and that twist sends him off. Both feet outside of that white line is a 3/10 deduction. Plus he put his hands down. Plus he took some steps, and that is unfortunate for Minnesota. In a rotation where they have to capitalize, and that was a moment they could have done something big.
That'll lead us back over to Michael Fletcher, who through 3 rotations has the lead for the all-around. His high score this season was in the last meet, actually, for the Illini of 13.35. His career high, just a sophomore, 13.7. You see the score coming in so far on the all-arounder for Fletcher. His first 3 scores giving him the all-around lead. 12-8 for Kovac.
That's a fairly low score, and it just exasperates yourself because Minnesota had a chance to pick up at least a couple points and not take advantage of it. Nicely done, right to the iron cross. Hold those strike moves 2 seconds.
Dante with a 13.050. That's not as bad as perhaps it could have been.
Yeah, he starts from over a 15, so it's, again, a higher scoring event helps. Double, another stuck landing. Illinois does not want to give Minnesota any room to breathe. Going to go a long way to keeping Fletcher in the lead in the all-around as well. Good look at the dismount. 2 flips, 2 twists, spots that landing easy. Makes it look so simple when it's not.
A surgical finish for a young man who wants to be a surgeon when he leaves Illinois. Good work by Fletcher, and that will go a long way toward pushing him further up the lead for the all-around as we move to Garrett Kosicki, the junior from Chesapeake, Virginia. Career high at 14.9. His best score this year, John, is 14.2.
He's got to hit this one. This is a handspring double front. This is a big-time vault. He struggles with it sometimes. Oh, but not today. Wow.
Yeah, that was smoking.
Mike Burns says sometimes he lands in a deep squat, but that one, he made the rotation easily. Actually flips over 3 times from the board to the floor. Holds on to that tuck just long enough. Look at this. It's just this huge gymnastic. A small hop. He should get deducted for his knees apart in the air. That is a 15-2 start. And Kosicki hopes that it is a start of a roll for the Gophers. They needed that.
They needed that fire, too, and that emotion, right? I'm sure Coach Burns appreciated that from Garrett Kosicki. There it is. In the hand, that meant something right there. 14 straight up for Fletcher. That is a new career high for Michael Fletcher, set right here on the Big Ten Network. And what a big number for an Illinois team that was already with a big lead.
That 14, that is a statement score. And I know there's a lot of gymnastics yet to go, but that might be the moment that Illinois says, no, this is our day.
That next man up mentality for Justin Spring. You saw all of the injuries and missing athletes, but next man up working out today on the road for the Illini.
Nice strike move from Diaz. Diaz starts with a 14-7. do that swing handstand at the end of a routine. Twisting double back dismount, coming right up. You know he wants to stick this. Whoa! And that could have been catastrophic. It looks like he's okay. I've actually done that. Unfortunately, he landed pretty flat on his back, just peeled off. Just peeled off right through the bottom. His right hand looked like it came off the rings. And again, this has happened to me as well. Watch his right hand, yep. And he is lucky that he flipped that over to his back. Kind of opens up, and then it looked like he realized kind of where he was and tucked his legs back in so he could do that. Almost a 1 3/4 over to his back. Now it looks like they're going to have to do his dismount again since he did not get a value for that skill. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to get back up there right now. He's got 20 seconds, I just heard the judge say. That is one thing as a gymnast I always was worried about, is your grip on high bar and your grip on rings. Rings almost more so than high bar in some ways. I always chalked those rings up a lot before I went, looked at them multiple times, make sure they look good. But you get to that end of that routine and your grip starts to kind of go. There are dowels in those grips, but sometimes it's just not enough. Good to see him get back up there and hit that dismount up.
So the junior from Cypress, Texas, a scary fall, but like you said, was able to just do one more kind of flip as he was coming down and landed safely on his back. I hope he's okay. Look at Eric Kosicki with the 14.4. That's his season high, just short of his career high. And Mike Moran now, the junior from Morristown, New Jersey, getting ready to go at a 14.75 against Penn State.
They need some big ones here. That 14.4 was huge. They need a couple more of those. Oh, that was nice. Real nice. Probably a 3/10 step on the landing. Did have some form in the air, in my opinion. The knees could have been a little bit straighter. Watch here. Right there. Not bad once he gets off that ball table. Trying to take advantage of that Diaz slip up on the rings.
Mike Moran showing a lot of poise as we move over to Danny Graham, 6th in the nation on the rings. Of course, as you mentioned earlier, the former Diab, the Lord of the Rings. So Illinois has thrown out some big-time performances on the rings over the years.
And this guy is actually 3 ring titles away from having the most individual ring titles for any Illini gymnast in history, which you think is crazy with a guy like Alex Diab, but he's gotten all of those titles since Diab retired. So they've all come last year and this year. He's got 3 more meets to try to get the record, so he's got to win them all, including this one obviously right here.
That fall from Diaz, a 12-1. Danny Graham, top scorer this season, has been a 14.2 a game against Penn State. He's capable of bigger numbers, career high at 14.550. That is a massive number on the rings.
Zarian to Maltese, that is so difficult. I mentioned to Daniel Rivera, the assistant coach at Illinois, that he basically needs to beat his teammates to get this ring title most likely, because ring's not a great event for Minnesota, and that's the case right here. He's got to beat a 14-0, which is not an easy task. Ooh, a little low on that cross. Shoulders are actually below the rings. Usually the gymnast will be above the rings, makes it a little easier. That one, definitely not the case. Oh, that's a significant break. I don't know that this is going to be a 14. He does have that big start value of 15.4 start value. I feel like he's got to stick the landing to give himself a shot. Oh, probably a 3/10 step. Is it enough to beat his teammate Fletcher and keep his hopes alive of setting the record for individual titles on rings for a line? I will see. This is a great look at that cross. So he goes back up price cross, but you want to go right to the position. He's a little bit low and actually struggles from that point, drops a little bit more. You can see the bent wrists around the rings. That's actually a deduction as well if you have what's called a false grip, which means you curl your wrists around the rings, which makes the strengthening easier.
2019-20 regular season Wings All-American will wait for his score. We'll slide over for the final vaulter as part of the 5-up, 5-count. Ben Isles, the junior from Ames, Iowa, 14.8 career high.
Another 2.5. Oh, and that was gorgeous. Man, he opened up, and I was worried he opened up a little too soon, but not the case. Darn near sticks it, just that small landing deduction. A 15-2 start value. Let's watch this close. Do you see any form deductions? Leg split coming on the table. That's probably 3/10. If you're being tough, that's a 3/10 hop. So I see about 6/10 in deduction, which means that should probably be about a 14.6, which would be a big number for them to finish on. Much needed.
One more all-arounder we need to take a look at. Crew Bold for Minnesota. A 14.65, which is a season high for Ben.
My judging skills are getting better, Dean. Crew Bold's got to make a move here. You can see that 2.35 behind the leader. Drew does a double twist. Cigar with the double twist, the same vault the lead option just did. Oh! I gotta see that again. That happened kind of quick. Was that a 2.5 or a 1.5? Let's look at this real close here. That was a 2.5. A little shy with those feet, but I gotta tell you, wow. Did not expect to see that. That's a clutch performance for Bold.
So we'll see if Minnesota can cut into the Illini lead. We'll get you updated on the scores. Illinois will come back on the high bar where they're 5th in the country and always a high-flying machine. Illinois and Minnesota, men's gymnastics, 5th rotation coming up. Welcome back to the Maturi Pavilion, known as the PAV, where so many sports are played. The Women's Gymnastics Championships, you see the ability for Minnesota to cut the lead in half right there after 4 rotations. That's what you said they needed to do, John Roethlisberger, and that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, it's down to 5.5, and coming from over a 10-point lead, or almost a 10-point lead, that is huge. Giving themselves a chance. If they hadn't done that, it would have been too big of a mountain to climb.
It's been a busy few days at Minnesota. As you remember, they had the elevated stage for the Big Ten Women's Gymnastics Championship. They had to get rid of that for a massive Big Ten volleyball game, and here we are today for Big Ten Men's Gymnastics. Great work by the staff at Minnesota.
Got a nice little battle going there between Moran and Fletcher in the all-around as well. Just 1/10 separating those two athletes with 2 events to go. So now Minnesota, they go to the parallel bars. Illinois is on the high bar, and again, talking with Daniel Rivera from Illinois, so that is a weak event for them, so possibly an opportunity for Minnesota to make the move. You look at Minnesota's vault score, 70.2, that is big. They needed that, and that is without Dante McKinney landing on his feet. It could have been much, much bigger than that.
Season high for Kasecki, and the lineup for Mike Burns on the P-bars. 3 sophomores, and we'll see what McKinney can do if he can recover and bounce back right in that 4th spot.
Yeah, he needs to do that. All these guys, they've got to hit. They've got 5 routines left that count towards their team score on each event, so 10 total. So they, in my opinion, they need to hit all 10 of those.
14 for Michael Fletcher. A big score for him to try to win the all-around title.
For a minute there, it looked like Illinois was going to put up a huge number there. Gave away a little bit. Obviously, an unfortunate loss of grip on that dismount cost them big time, but high bar now for them. Anybody knows about high bar, it's Justin Spring. When he was at his peak, he was one of the best in the world at this event. I'll never forget his high bar routine at the Olympics in Beijing. They were coming down the stretch. They had 2 events left after high bar, but they had to hit 3 up, 3 count, and Justin Sprigg did this humongous high bar routine. I swear he was on his fingertips the entire time, and he stuck a triple back, and it was a pivotal moment, in my opinion, on them winning that bronze medal. What a moment for him and Team USA.
Well, he looks like he could still get it done on the high bar, as he did want us to say hello to his kids. Cody's 8, Callie's 5, and of course he's got another little man, 18 months, Elliot, and his wife Tori. Proud to be with Illinois. And what do you remember about that 2012 national championship run for such a young coach?
I mean, they had a stacked team, and Justin did a great job managing them. You know, a lot of times you think, oh, you got talent, things are easy, but that's not the case. Honestly, sometimes those talented teams can be a challenge to coach, and he brought them together. He had them peaking at the right time, and what a way to begin your career. You set the bar kind of high, no pun intended, but it's a tough act to follow if you're a coach. But the youngest national coach of the year as well. He's done a great job since. Yeah.
Here we go. 5th rotation, Minnesota. They are 5th in the conference on the P-bar, 7th nationally. Their highest score as a team, 68.6, coming against Penn State. Victor Perez, his high score this year and in his career is a 13-1.
Nice mount sequence. It's a pelt right to each handstand. A lot of underbar work. When they swing under the bars, the feet are not supposed to touch the ground. Even if they brush the ground, it should be a deduction. Sometimes that's a lot tougher than it looks to keep those feet up. So far, this is as good as Victor can do it. Double tuck. Small hop on the landing. That was a fantastic start. Not a huge start value, a 14.3 start. But man, he did it about as good as you can do it. That dismount has always been the question mark for Perez. It was doing a double pipe for a while. He made it a little easier with the double tuck. Comes up those bars, gets into that tight wall. Looks for the landing. Great start for Gophers.
Some words of encouragement from Mike Burns as we move over to the high bar. Evan Manaball, the sophomore from KC, Missouri, 13.3 against the Buckeyes. His career high is a 13.45.
Now, a 13 is going to be a great score, really, on high bar. Ooh, a little off on that Takachev. High bar, like pommel horse, is a very low-scoring event. When you get into 14s on high bar, you've done something pretty darn good, and the reason is there's so many places to take deductions. On skills like that, they're supposed to finish right in a handstand. If they don't, it could be 1/10, 3/10, even 5/10 for what looks like a pretty well-executed skill. So a lot of chances to lose deductions. Full twisty double layout, big step forward. He stayed on the bar, a little sloppy on some of his release moves. 14.6 start value. With those errors, I don't think this will be in the 13s. We'll just a double layout, a little low on that landing. But again, with a 5.5 point lead, they need to just stay on the high bar. Put themselves in position to win in the last event.
Danny Yoon, the junior from Huntington Beach, California, season high 12.65, career high 13.6.
13.65 for Perez. That's a big start for them. Got trouble on that pirouette. You don't want to have trouble on an A skill. Danny has a 14.2 start value. Perez has a 14.3. So if you're at home, you can compare these two routines. Which one should score higher? Layout half, super easy dismount, but he sticks it. And that's just strategic. You can't do the more difficult skill. Don't take the risk. It's the pirouette, though. You don't want to see those elbows bend on that pirouette. See assistant coach Russ Fistrom on the mat in the background. Very simple layout half. But when you do something easy, do it clean and stick the landing. I think Mike Burns is happy with that.
Josh Cook. This is the first time this year he's been in the official lineup for Coach Spring. The sophomore from Wales, career high 13.8 on the high bar. Manabong in with a 12.4.
You compare that to Minnesota's first score. Minnesota picked up over a point in one routine. Their second gymnast also hits. That puts the pressure on Cook. Josh, just a 13.8 start value on this event. As you can tell, he's got a safe routine. Doesn't have a lot of things where the judges can take deductions. Oh, and if you would have stuck that landing, you would have been planned, executed. It still was very good. Probably 3/10 on that landing deduction. That is a strategic routine in the highest sense of the word. Justin Spring and Daniel Rivera. Oh, they wanted that stuck landing. Did your job, Josh.
Mike Moran, season high 13.45. In his career, his best number is a 13.65. Remember, Minnesota without Shane Wiskus, who had a 14.75 against Penn State.
So you saw that 12.85. 7/10 more in deductions that they have on Yoon's routine and Perez's routine.
See where Moran is so close, as you said, that 1/10. Don't even count it. Basically, it's neck and neck with Fletcher and Moran.
I guarantee you this young man is worried about one thing: hitting this routine for the team score. So on a bit of a run since about midway through that vault rotation. Carlos is very good. He's got a 15 start. Big dismount. Oh, he nails it. That is a bonus 10th, and he is loving it.
Same temperament, good or bad for this young man?
Big moment for the Gophers right there. Take another look at this. So hard in the arms. Double front with a half twist. An F valued skill. Now he did stick the landing, however, shoulders very low. Probably going to lose 3 on the low shoulders. But he does get the bonus 10.
Middle of the lineup for Coach Spring and the Illini, Jordan Kovach, another all-arounder, 13.3 against Iowa, his season high, career high of 13.55.
Milwaukee mount. Saw the unlock in the rings, now there's one on the high bar. Very nice laid on the gotcha. Routine. Double twisted double layup, and you just saw it right off the bar. Did not get his toes up. Came off a little too early. Call that pinging your dismount a little bit. There, it should just go, stay closer to the bar and go up a little bit higher. That is a big break. He only starts from a 14.3. That makes that fall at the end much more costly.
See if Dante McKinney can redeem himself from his vault performance. He has a 13.65 this year for his season and career high.
Redeemed himself and capitalize Illinois' mistakes. And he's got a beautiful line. When I say line, is handstand. Nice and straight. Oh, a little off on that one. Kind of close to those uprights. When you're closer to the uprights, meaning those vertical metal posts, it's much harder to get bounce off the bar. But no problem on that double pike, sky high. Does take the big slide backwards. But hey, with the miss from Illinois and Jordan Kovac on high bar, at 14.7 start value, they're still going to pick up some points. Mike Burns has to sense a little bit of a run here. They do have to finish on high bar. Anything can happen on that event. The release moves, big dismounts, as we've already seen, a lot of risk. We'll have to go through that gauntlet. Illinois will already be done as they go to the middle bar, so long way to go.
Logan Myers, his season high for the freshman is 12.75, but he's having himself a pretty good day and having a good time, so let's see if he can keep the momentum going. And that's at 11.8. Sorry, John.
No, I was just going to say, in regards to that, a pressure situation after a miss, we used to always call it, you got to stop the bleeding. Illinois got some bleeding right now. They need a hit. Ooh, flying giant, that's cool. Double twisting, double layout. Plenty of rotation, too much. But other than that big step on the landing, that was a very clean routine. Starts from a 14.3. Really, it's almost impossible on high bar to have less than 1 point in execution deduction. So if you're just looking at that out of a 10 that we talked about, if you get a 9 or higher on high bar, you're basically perfect. Nice. Milwaukee to open. Great height, great line position.
So that's going to bring us to the final P-bar routine. Crew Bowl, one of the all-rounders, sophomore from Delray Beach, Florida. His career height has come this season at 13.8.
He's got to hit this routine. Beautiful peach work to start. Minnesota needs a 14 right here. A little short on that splits the handstand, but he handles it pretty well. He also does the forward flipping dismount right here. Double front, got a pull. Nicely done. A big hit when they needed it. Minnesota is going to make this very close going into the last rotation. Double front. So you see he takes that hop and then he actually slides his heels together at the end. That heel slide is acceptable. That's not a deduction. That hop forward, that is a deduction.
Now a breakdown from John Roethlisberger. 4 times he won a Big Ten all-round title.
Pressure situation here. Michael Fletcher with 110 all around. Minnesota making a run. Some low scores from Illinois and high bar. Minnesota back into this. That means this routine is crucial.
His best score this season is just a 13, and he's got a career high of a 14.15. That was a big move.
That was a full twisting laid out Kovacs called a casino. Oh, there's a Kachev a little too close to the bar. Has to bend his arms to make it over, but what a fight. Nice straddle to Kachev on his fingertips. This is a circus routine. Just the dismount. Oh my goodness, they needed that. If they win this meet, look to that routine. Lived on the edge and stayed on. It was not perfect. But look at that, the Casina. Justin Sprank used to compete that as well. I'll tell you exactly how you're supposed to do it. This is a little too close to the bar. Look at his elbows bent right there. And then that, it's a big deduction, but I tell you what, nothing compared to what he would have had. Look at this right here. Go gadget arms. I don't know how he got those dowels over the bar, but he did. And he finishes it with a stuck landing. Holy cow, Justin can appreciate living on the edge on high bar. And that is exactly what Fletcher did. They needed that one big time.
They did. He stuck it. Fletcher, we'll see if that means he moves up the all-around list. He was already leading coming in. We come to the final rotation. It's going to be tight. Illinois, Minnesota.
Saturday,
Big
April
Ten Network,
3rd
the Big
is the
Show delivers
men's
highlights, in-depth analysis, and all the news from around the conference. That's coming
See,
up
there's
tonight
no
at
audience.
11:30
It's
Eastern
just
on the Big
cutouts.
Ten Network.
A cutout of
We've got
the
a tight
dog.
team race. We've got a tight all-around race. Everything you expect in Big Ten men's gymnastics, where all 7 teams are ranked
The
in the top
reason why they're
10
doing cardboard
nationally.
cutouts
Including
is
these 2
because
teams, Illinois at
for an
7,
audience
Minnesota
is
at
because
10, as we move
of
to the 6th
COVID.
and final
So
rotation.
people
Illinois on the P
that
bars, where they
live
are
in the
9th in the
Minnesota
country.
area,
Minnesota
rather
on the
than
high
go
bar,
see
where
the
they
meet
are
live,
7th
they just
in
watch it on
the
TV.
country. Still waiting for all of the numbers to come in, but remember, after 3 rotations, Mike Burke's team was down 10. You talked about chopping away at that lead, what they needed to do. They cut it in half through 4, and we'll get the final numbers here through 5, as it should be pretty tight here, although Justin Spring really happy with the final performance there from Michael Fletcher.
Talking with the Illinois coaching staff before this competition, they look at their high bar score of 62.1, not a great event total for the Illini. I talked to this team, and their staff told me, they go, we're notorious for choking meets away on parallel bars. In fact, they mentioned that they've done it a couple times here at Minnesota. So I don't know if that's something the team thinks about. Certainly the coaches obviously know that it's happened.
62-10
You gotta
is
think that
Illinois' high bar.
the team is just putting that behind themselves, not thinking about it.
Now
Out
that's
there
a
doing their job.
P-bar
See their
lineup.
competition order.
They're
Every
9th in the
Lineup in
NCAA.
there with 3 seniors and 2 juniors, so we'll see if that eliminates that choke effect that you just mentioned for Illinois on the P-bars.
And just looking at their high scores on each of their respective events, Illinois, their highest score this season on this event is a 66.25. Minnesota on high bar, their highest score is a 67.35, which means that's potentially a 1.1 difference. Now, obviously, that's their high score. A lot of things can happen, but just to kind of give you some basis on what we can expect in this rotation, Illinois has a 1.3 lead, I believe, coming into this. So maybe a little bit of an advantage to Minnesota in closing that gap, as we see their 66.4. Nice job of parallel bars. A little bit of an advantage if they can stay on the bar to closing that gap, but certainly not a prohibitive advantage.
High bar.
They both put up their high scores of the season on this event, and they matched their high scores. That means Illinois will win by a couple of tenths. So it should be close. It's going to be interesting.
Take a look at their ranking in the conference. It's usually pretty similar. 7th and 9th overall for Illinois, and Minnesota 6th and 7th overall.
A lot of pressure. Minnesota on the high bar. This is one of those events. I don't know if you want to finish on the meet on the line. It's a high pressure and risk reward type of event. Minnesota has some decent start values, although they have a couple low ones similar to Illinois that they're going to put guys up and hope that they can hit clean.
329.1
They're taking
to
some risks.
327.8.
Point those out.
Yeah, so the meet is
It is
whole lot
worth mentioning
closer
that both these teams,
after
again,
5.
missing so many superstars. Amish Carter had a 14.0 against Nebraska and Michigan this season. He is sitting out to be ready for the April 3rd Big Ten Championships. And then, of course, Shane Wiskus had a 14.35 against Penn State on the high bar. So no Carter for Illinois, no Wiskus. I guess fair play here as we try to get a team winner.
Yeah, for sure. Hamish Carter was ranked, or is ranked, still second in the country on high bar, even though he's sitting out. Shane Wiskus is third. So, unfortunate for us as spectators and fans of the sport, we don't get to see two of the best. But you're right, it's kind of they're each giving up a big one.
So look at that, down 10 through 3, picked up 5, and now a couple more here. So you're saying you got a chance here, John.
Ooh.
They got a shot. Tommy Mistretta has only done parallel bars one time this season. Not a lot of experience on this event.
Redshirt senior from Eastern PA, career high 13.3.
We saw them actually before he started the routine. They had to raise the bars because he is such a tall athlete. Those underbar skills, those giants, are difficult when you're this tall. Double pipe, and he got through it. Starts at a 14.5. Won't be a huge score, but you get the first guy out there, get a hit under your belt. Did his job.
John Roethlisberger, besides being a 3-time Olympian and 4-time Big Ten champion, I must admit you're a master at keeping an eye on the numbers as they get closer. So what are you looking for right off the bat here for Perez for a number to give Minnesota hope that they can run down Illinois?
If he can get a 13 right here, that would be huge. He starts from a 14.7. He's got a few releases in the middle. Obviously, he needs to catch him. He's capable of a 13. That is a tough score to get, though, as I mentioned, on high bar. There's one. Beautiful. A couple more. He's going to do one in the straddle position. He's going to do one more called the lynch. He does a half turn out. That's about as good as he can do it.
We'll see if he gets that score. Don't forget McKinney and Bode, strong anchors for this Minnesota team on the high bar.
Just a dismount. Oh, every 10th counts. Man, that was a big start for the Gophers. They're going to pick up points. After one gymnast for both teams, they will absolutely pick up points. That's his third release after little leg form, bent knees. Should be a deduction. But nothing right there. Mike Burns helping him in the background. Gophers are feeling it.
Great work by Perez to fight through his core to stick that. See if, I gotta believe he's gonna perhaps top that 13.3, or did you add up enough deductions where he can't?
I think that very well could. I'm gonna go out on the limb and say it does.
So close, Chip. John Roethlisberger 13.2 for Victor Perez. So I apologize. That was Tommy's score, 13.2. We're still waiting on Victor. So you could be right, John Roethlisberger. My bad. Is Sebastian Namidi, a junior from California, 13.45 is his best score.
And I don't want to gloss over that 13.2 from Mistretta. That's a great score to start this rotation for Illinois. Big break right there. It could have been a lot worse, but he's fighting through it. That was a great battle. Sometimes when things aren't pretty, you just like to see him fight and hold on. And that is what Betty is doing right here. Great fight. There are going to be a lot of deductions in that routine. He's got a 15 start value, but with all those deductions, I don't know if he'll be able to stay even in the 13s. That's a Diamondov. Ends up a little short. Forward break, moves his hands, but fights through it, stays on the bar. Big step there. But man, what a battle. I've been there, man. You get through a routine and you're just fighting the whole way. You're just happy to be on your feet at the end of it.
Ben Isles, the junior from Ames, Iowa, 13.45 this season is also his career high. So Victor Perez, 13.3. He was right on that number.
And that's you know, picks up 1/10 after one gymnast. Minnesota's going to have to do better than that. They want to make up that 1.3 lead that Illinois has. Beautiful Tkachev.
Oh!
Now this is a lower start value by 0.8 of a point compared to Perez. A 13.9 start value. But no place to take deductions. Very few. Oh, except right there.
A step.
One of that stuck landing real bad. Took a 3/10 hop, then a 1/10 hop. This should be close to a 13. But man, if you would have stuck this landing right here, and you know he sees it coming a long way, throws the arms out in front, that should be a 4/10 deduction on that dismount. But other than that, maybe a handstand or two through the course of that routine. I would not be surprised if that makes it to a 13, which means you would have a 9.0 or higher in execution. I just got done saying that's basically
Well, 4-4 of the E, so the door is open. We'll see if Diaz can close it again. And keep Illinois on top. Diaz, the Duke from Cypress, Texas, a 13-4 career high.
13-4 would be huge. That right there is called the Bobsar, named after Ohio State gymnast and Olympic teammate of Justin Spring, Raj Bobsar. Diaz has a 14.5 start value. So far, this is pretty darn good. Height. Oh, that was great. He had some form breaks in there. He gets the stuff landing at the end and gets the bonus 10.
This meet's almost over. Maybe 11 minutes left.
Huge. He struggled against Northern Illinois. Gets the call because Coach Spring needed him. And how about him hanging on there? The smile shows. Well done by Joel Diaz. Next man up. Justin Spring needed him. And been out there since Northern Illinois. He delivers.
He's only done parallel bars one time this year, and he scored an 8.7. So that'll tell you something. That'll tell you something, man. Clutch moments. So now, back in Minnesota's court, they picked up some points. Actually, not many, only a half a tenth. I'm a little surprised at Ben Isle's score. They found some deductions. Just a 1.5 in deductions on that high bar routine. So Minnesota only gets a half-tenth in that second routine.
Second in the all-around, Mike Moran trying to trace down Michael Fletcher. His high this year is a 12.5. You talk about needing 13s for Minnesota with this, so he's going to need his best performance on the high bar.
He's got to be perfect. Diaz is going to get a good score on parallel bars. Moran's got to match it. Nice Tkachev. Helps that he's got a little higher start value of 14.3. But every lane he's got to be stuck at this point for Minnesota. Like a toothpick in a club sandwich. Moran had to stick it, and he did. Trying to chase down the Illini. Wow. Pressure is on both of these teams. It looked like he was going to sling it too far away from the bar, which makes it harder to stick, but timed it perfectly.
Wonderful reaction from Mike Burns. Both arms in the air and smiling right through his mask as Jordan Kovacs, the all-rounder from Oklahoma, career high of 13.95 on the P-bars. His best this season was against Michigan and Nebraska, where he had a 13.35. As you see the score there for Diaz, a 13.6. That is a new career high for Joel Diaz.
And that's a big number, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Minnesota's going to win this. They almost need Illinois to have a major break. I don't know. If Illinois hits these last two routines, I don't think Minnesota has enough to catch them. They have not really chipped into that 1.3 lead so far in this rotation.
Kovacs knows that as well, so we'll see if he can avoid breaking.
He's got not a 15-1 start value, so he can just hit. Stay on the bars and land on his feet. So dismount. Oh, and there's the break. That was going to be close to a 14 score. He tried too hard to stick the landing. Man, he took his time too. He held that press, set himself up. You can see him pop his shoulders there a little bit. Just didn't quite swing his legs up into the V-sit position enough as he came off the bar, kind of just cut it off a little early. So Justin Spring talking to him about right there, saying the same thing. You got to let those hips swing through your hands a little more. So now an opportunity back in Gophers court.
Dante McKinney, 14-1 career high, 13-9 this season, and pretty good form on the high bar. Mike Burns felt okay with McKinney and Bold filling in for Wiskus here in the 4 and 5 spots.
Can go big. Like I said, risk reward. Huge layout.
Away, Moran just set a career high with 12-7.
Wow, no one does it better. That was fabulous. It might be a career high 12-7 for Moran, but it gives up 9/10 to Illinois on the second person. So Minnesota in a bigger hole now. Gotta stick it. Does it? Man, I don't know. He needed to stick that landing. Landed so low and took that big step. But look at these. I mean, if you want to feel like you're flying, that is what Dante McKinney's doing right there. But this is a killer. Opens up a little too much. See how low the shoulders are? That huge step forward.
Leader in the all-around. We can tell you Kovacs with a 12-5 right before Michael Fletcher, who, again, worth repeating, the leader in the all-around. A career high of 14-2. His best score this season came at the Winter Cup, a 13.65. A sophomore from the state of New Hampshire.
If he stays on the bar, I think Illinois wins.
Already done the math on the score he needs to win the all-around, knowing what Moran did.
You know what, team? Back off, man. This is too intense to do math at the same time.
Fair enough. You say back off, I'm backing off.
Beautiful, Bobsar. Fletcher is saying, not so fast, Minnesota. Oh, man, he almost gave it away at the end. 3 very quick steps on that landing. I do think that is going to be enough. This right here, though, that's gorgeous gymnastics. All the way from one end of the bar to the next. Elbow pike just holds onto that a little bit too long, but I tell you what, those scrappy, quick feet might have saved the team title.
Yeah, hand-to-hand, though, across the P-bar. That was a beautiful move for Fletcher. We'll see if that's enough for him to win the all-around. Last to compete tonight is Drew Bold, the all-arounder, the senior from Idaho. 14-1 career high this season. Pretty close to it with a 13-9.
He literally needs to be perfect. I don't think, obviously we have not seen Fletcher's score come up yet, but just guessing what it might be. Big release! Beautiful full twisted double over on Coleman. Regardless, you want to see big gymnastics. 2 in a row. He has a 15-1 start value. Full twisted double. Takes the step. I tell you what, a valiant comeback, incredible fight from the Golden Gophers from midway through that vault rotation to the end of the meet. Look at this. Coleman, full twisted double back over the bar. The last piece of gymnastics of a regular season meet in the history of this storied program, the University of Minnesota. What a fight by the Golden Gophers.
Showing the fight of their coach, who always brings the fun as well. Mike Burns, an outstanding ambassador, a 13 flat for Fletcher, well below his season and career high. We'll be back to get all the numbers in and see if Illinois hangs on and tell you who wins the all-around. Illinois and Minnesota, Big Ten men's gymnastics on the Big Ten Network. A wonderful comeback for Minnesota will fall just short, though, as Illinois got off to a rocking start through 3 rotations. Mike Burns' team showing all kinds of fight without their USA superstar Shane Wiskus, and they finished just behind Illinois, as Illinois will win over Minnesota. But an exciting comeback, exciting show here, men's gymnastics from Minnesota, John Roethlisberger.
Yeah, a disappointing finish to the meet. In fact, that the Gophers didn't pull off the win for them, but Illinois on the other side of the floor, they might have exercised a few demons with that parallel bar performance and solidifying the win. But great fight, great competition. You know, halfway through we're sitting here going, man, this might be a sleeper, but not meant to be. Great fight from the Gophers, great battle back to on the other side by the Illini. Exactly what you want to see in a Big Ten matchup.
So when you take a look at each rotation, what was the difference maker for the Illini?
Well, honestly, if you look at the second rotation, Minnesota's 58.4 on the pommel horse. You know, it got late early for the Gophers when they had those mistakes. But, man, that fight, that battle back. But at the end of the day, though, Dean, too, those last 2 high bar dismounts, I said, you got to stick these if you want to win it. And if they had stuck those between erasing the deductions and getting the bonus points, that might have been enough to get them the win. But nonetheless, that was exciting.
Illinois' Michael Fletcher did just enough in the anchor spot of the P-bar. See him right there. And Michael Fletcher is our all-around winner. Congratulations to Michael Fletcher. Well, that's going to wrap it up from Minnesota and the PAB, where, of course, the Minnesota women won the Big Ten a couple days ago. Today, it was Illinois winning by 1 lonely point over the Minnesota Golden Gophers in men's gymnastics. Michael Fletcher wins the all-around. For our 3-time Olympian, 4-time All-Big Ten champion, John Roethlisberger, I'm Dean Linke. So long from Minneapolis.
Now I'm going to do Michigan.
Welcome inside Rec Hall. We have a matchup of Big Ten men's gymnastics between the 2nd-ranked Michigan Wolverines and the 6th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. We close out the regular season here this afternoon inside Rec Hall on the campus of Penn State. The Nittany Lions 4-3 on the season, 2-3 in Big Ten meets. But a perfect 4-0 at home here in the friendly confines of Rec Hall. The 2nd-ranked Michigan Wolverines, a perfect 6-0 on the season, 5-0 in Big Ten play, looking to close out the regular season title. Eric Olson with you here inside Rec Hall. Happy to be joined by Penn State junior Brady Yamamoto. Brady, we got the regular season dual meet, or regular season finale dual meet here between Penn State and Michigan. Got to be an exciting time right now for both teams. What are you expecting here this afternoon?
You know, it's going to be a solid competition. You know, Penn State is coming off of a couple of big losses within the conference. So, you know, hopefully being at home, they're going to come, you know, ready to compete with a lot more, you know, fierceness than what they may have shown in previous meets. So hopefully we'll get a solid competition out here, and maybe having that home court advantage will give Michigan a run for their money potentially.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned there Penn State lost its last 2 Big Ten meets to Iowa and a close one in Minnesota as well, most recently out on March 6th on the road at the Golden Gophers. The Wolverines coming off a win against Ohio State. It was ranked 5th in the country. That was a 408.35 to 397.95 win. There's so many great ranked teams in the Big Ten. What's it like when you get a meet like this against a great opponent? There has to be so much energy and excitement around the team.
Oh, definitely. You know what Penn State's going to really have to hope for is that win you just mentioned against Ohio State was only a few days ago. So they could potentially, you know, have some issues with becoming fresh. You know, we're coming off of a week of full preparation, and Michigan might not have that. Now, depending on how that rotation within their lineups has progressed throughout the week, it might change. But hopefully, you know, we'll still see a solid fight from both sides.
Well, we're going to start. Penn State's going to start on the floor exercise. Caleb Booth will get things started for the Nittany Lions. The Wolverines will be starting on the pommel horse.
It was a solid first pass by Caleb. Actually, that's probably his most struggled pass that he has in his routine. Overall, pretty consistent guy. You know, he's only on 2 events. I'm not sure if he's in vault lineup today as of right now, but a solid floor competitor. You rarely see mistakes out of him. And this is also one of his lesser pass or little skills there. Honestly, that you go through so much stress during such a little pass.
Yeah.
As a press, but you got to make sure you hold it and everything's tight. But as he goes through, solid 1.5 punch full. He's looking all the way, you know, tight up into the end here. Let's see if he can get a stub dismount to start off the Nittany Lions. Little hop at the end, but you know, overall that's a solid routine. That's a hit. You want hits this entire time. That's the biggest thing that you can ask for. Is just staying on the equipment and staying on your feet.
Yeah, a lot of excitement coming off that for Caleb Booth, junior out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Posted a season high 13.85 on the floor at Ohio State against Ohio State this year. Now we head over to the pommel horse for the Wolverines. This is Justin Murphy.
I mean, you're just gonna really just hope to keep your body as square as possible over those pommels and just push through a routine. I mean, it's way more important on an event like horse to just get those hits going. Unfortunately, right there, he's gonna lose. Only a 10th off of that dismount, falling off to the wrong side after pirouetting, but you know, that's still a hit. It's not a crazy deduction. The rest of the routine was solid. Not a lot of difficulty, but again, those hits, important.
Justin Murphy, a graduate student for the Wolverines out of Fenton, Michigan. His specialist just competes in the pommel horse, had a season high of 13.4 this year against Minnesota.
So next it's looking like Robbie Shamp is going to be on floor. He's a sophomore from Louisiana. Robbie's biggest problem is just staying healthy. Honestly, he's one of the most powerful tumblers that I've ever come across in my entire career being around. But I remember in JOs, I competed with him in a rotation, and my goodness, I couldn't believe being a couple years younger. It's just insane. That double-double off the bat right there, huge pass. Double full punch half. Little hop there on the landing. You know, he might be a little bit nervous. It's been a couple of weeks since he's competed. And right there, that was a solid fight to get that punch out of his 2.5. But you know, again, he's staying on his feet. He's fighting for those landings. Just really working for it.
So when it comes to landing, I know you get a deduction for a little bit of a hop, but what about in terms of keeping, is there is feet separation allowed? I know in some events you really want to keep your feet tight and pointed. When it comes to floor, do you have a separation with your feet when you land?
When you land, yes. The goal right there is what you saw right there on that double full is you click. If you can click your heels, you're within the range of how far you can be apart, which is typically about shoulder width. Big triple full dismount, a little leg separation at the end, but he's on his feet. But with landings again, you got to be able to click your heels as you transition into the next pass. That's going to keep you from deduction, and then other than that, you just want to be up until that point. You got to be tight in the air, feet and knees, depending on the skill, of course.
So the score for Caleb Booth, the first Nittany Lion on the floor, 13.55. One of his high scores of the year, again, his season high 13.85, but scored a couple 13.5s this year. Now we go back to the Pommel Horse for David Willett, sophomore for the Wolverines out of High Point, North Carolina.
He's working that single pommel really well. Couple flop sequences to start it off. A quick little travel across. He's going to go on the Roth and circle back in. Looking probably about one more skill to the dismount. And that's a solid routine. A little bit of closed hips on throughout his circle, especially on those traveling skills across the horse, but for sure that's a solid routine. A lot more difficulty it looks like than the first guy. So that should be a solid score, honestly.
Yeah, Murphy for the Wolverines, the first to go on the pommel, a 12.9. So right now, Penn State in the lead again. The Nittany Lions on the floor, Michigan on the pommel right now. We go to Eric Lung for the Nittany Lions. Lung competes. This season has competed mostly in the floor. It's got a couple parallel bars, some rhythm performances to his name as well, and one on the high bar.
Well, that's an unfortunate little fall there. He does his double tuck. Unfortunately, sits that down. Eric's a really solid and clean gymnast when it comes to his floor passes, and he's mainly a twister, as you can see. That double flipping pass is probably his hardest that he does. Get a little hiccup right there on the 2.5, but he's just got to keep going and stay on his feet the rest of the time.
Okay, now this is my second
meets now,
gymnastics meet that I'm hosting of the day,
after Winter Cup
and
nationals,
it's men's
after
gymnastics.
you're only at 5
But this is my final men's
So what that
gymnastics
means
meet.
is,
The second,
prior to
the
that,
third
you had
and
six
final
or
meet
six guys
is
that
gonna
can
be
compete
a
and then
women's
drop much lower the lowest
gymnastics
score.
meet.
Right now, every single guy who competes on the lineup is going to account for a score, so those hits are huge. He finishes it up with triple full, stays on his feet. That fall is going to be his biggest deduction by far.
And is that a full point deduction for
That
a
is
fall?
a full point deduction for a fall, yes. So next up, it looks like we have Paul Judah on pommel horse. Paul Judah is one of Michigan's co-stars. Really, he's only a sophomore, I believe.
Yep.
And him and Cameron Bach just kind of run the all-around for Michigan, so they're very important. They're very huge scores, potential scores. And Judah's pommel horse is actually very fun to watch because of how unique it is. He does, obviously, you're seeing all of these skills that are in a flared position. So his legs are straddled the whole time, and he's doing all of the typical travels that you see, and these stock leads that you see in a flared position, which gives you a bonus 10. And that was just a solid routine overall. I'm not one to speak crazy for pommel horse because I don't compete it myself anymore, but you can see a good routine and you know it when you see it.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you see someone do a routine like that in that flared position?
Not often. It's very particular to an individual's style, and especially a guy doing all around. So an event like pommel horse could be the biggest detriment to their score. So being able to tune in and find something that you're good at on such a hard event like that, and it changes the way the judges look at you, and it changes the perspective of how you can put up a score as well in that aspect is really important.
Back to the floor here for Penn State senior Matanzas.
Fantastic. He's a senior out of Reno, Nevada. I've actually competed with him since I was old enough to go outside of the state to compete. Brendan's a solid competitor and a really good asset to have on floor. He actually won the Big Ten championships on floor his freshman year, which would have been 2015.
Yeah, back to 2018.
2018.
Yeah, he was first team All Big Ten then as well. Last year competed in 9 routines on the vault, 9 on parallel bars, 8 on the floor, 6 on the ring, 6 also on high bar, and 3 on the palm bar. So there's a lot of different lines.
Right, that was just as a solid set is all you can ask for. You know, step dismount as well. The big thing on floor is you want to get as many landing step as possible because those are the biggest ones that are going to be consistently taken throughout the routine. So you want to be in what's called a 9-0 execution because you get a bonus 10th back if you stay within only a point of deduction. So those landings are the biggest thing on floor. Pommel horse, it's going to be pommels or like splicing the pommel horse as you circle around, staying square on your looping skills, front or back. It's a little bit harder to take deduction when you're on the single pommel, so that's nice. And then that dismount's huge because they want to see you swing all the way up through to the handstand and not any sort of strength as you press up. So far, we're seeing Michigan do a good job of that, actually. Let's see here. Robbie Shamp put up a 12.95 on floor. Eric Lung a 12.05. Now, what I notice about that is that those are Caleb's got the highest score right now. We want to look at the higher scores as best as possible. Those mid-13s, low 14s at best, because Michigan is going to come and show out on floor, and they will probably they have a lot of difficulty and potential for their floor score. So if Penn State can match those scores as best as they possibly can, they can make a solid, evening out once it comes to palm horse, because we will have a higher difficulty, I believe, in overall start value on palm horse, and the potential for score is huge as well. So that's where you're going to see the battles between the two teams on these first two events, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that's great insight there. You look at the national rankings for Michigan, second in the country on pommel horse overall, but rings and high bar really where their strengths are. It seems like number 1 in the country in both, going over to the Nittany Lions, so ranked 3rd on the floor this season. So you feel like this is a good opportunity to try to make up, get some points here.
Exactly.
Is there an event where you think Penn State hasn't been at their best this season that maybe they've been working to improve on to try to get those scores a little bit higher?
I would definitely say pommel horse. Looking at what our horse potential is and what it has been in the past, we've been continuously ranked number 1 in the past 3 years for sure. But just seeing that kind of lack out is a huge improvement that they can make to their team score, and it's just very important that starts to show up coming into the postseason.
Cameron Bach, rather, beg your pardon, and his routine on the pommel horse, a senior for the Wolverines.
Again, that's going to be the co-all-arounder to Paul Judah. He's a veteran though, got more experience. Very important that he does well for his team, and now it's just a solid overall pommel horse routine from him. You don't see much change in what he does for sure.
He's got 3 all-around scores on the season, a high of 84.2. We update a couple more scores for you. Eric Lund's got a 12.05 for Penn State on the floor. Over on the Pommel Judah, 14.2 for the Wolverines. Will had a 13.95. We're looking at freshman Matt Cormier for the Nittany Lions.
Matt did a really good job debuting himself on his events that he does. Floor being a huge one of them. He's continuously been providing top scores for Penn State. And, you know, you just look at the difference in the level of difficulty that Matt does in his routine versus his teammates. It's just, that's where it gets all the difference. Now, high risk, high reward, obviously. Yeah. But, you know, you see his on floor specifically is very, very consistent. Again, you see that triple full dismount. That's going to be a very common one that you see throughout all of the NCAA. You want to at least a D value dismount, so that's going to be a 2.5 or higher in terms of twist. With Caleb Booth, you saw a full twisting double back, which gets you that D credit as well. But typically people are going to go for that triple full, which makes it all the more reason to find that landing, keep your chest up, and make sure you show off that a solid stick, because like I said